Hello and welcome to Fellowship in Essential Oils. I am so excited, Liz. Do you know why?
Oh, I dread to think why.
Today is going to be mint. Very, very mint indeed.
And as we all know, I really hate mints.
Yes.
Mint
Now,
essential oil, I hate it, but I do love mint herbs. So this is going to get interesting. So list off what we're going to cover.
okay. Well, obviously, when it comes to mint oils, peppermint is always the superstar. And we always think of peppermint. And we have kind of done the assistant to peppermint before. We've done spearmint. These are probably the two main mint oils that most people could maybe list if they needed to. But the mint family is a big family, in fact. And we're going to go through a whole bunch. Some of you've worked with, some I've worked with. We're going to look at Bergamot Mint. We're going to look at Pennyroyal. We're going to look at Horse Mint. And we're going to look at Japanese Peppermint and Corn Mint. And I'm even going to throw in a couple of other mints at the end as well, which don't stress, Liz. I'll take the reins on that.
I
So,
am definitely stressing now if you're throwing in more. So I first of all must take exception to us I don't know, de-promoting spearmint to it being a sidekick. No, spearmint. In actual fact, in England, spearmint's our main mint in the
mm,
gardens. So no, I will fight the corner of the spearmint. Anything's better than peppermint, in my opinion. It's a really good oil. But carry on. You may continue.
okay. Well, let's dive in and let's look at some of these other mint oils. When we're looking at the mint oils, what we've noticed, even just in our discussions preparing for today, is how many different names there are for different oils. So this is where we've talked about this before, but looking at the Latin name is going to be a really good guide on making sure that the mint we're talking about is the mint you're thinking about as well. Because, for example, what I've got as mentha, you pronounced it so much better before, canadensis. I think it's pronounced. Is that right? That'll do.
Not a clue.
Um,
I just said Canadiensis, but I don't know. Looking at the paperwork, but yeah.
yeah, it looked like it's Canada. I know it is Japanese peppermint. I know in other places it's called Chinese mint. In Canada, it's called Canada mint. It's got a whole range of different names. So if we're just going on a general name, we really can't rely on that, can we?
No, and I mean, I think I'd always said to you to give a bit of background when we don't do much preparation. We really don't do much preparation for these, but we were saying last week, well, so are they the same? I said, oh, Japanese mint is corn mint, but then when we looked at the Latin names, we were like, oh no, I need to go and unlearn that. That's not right. Arvensis is different to Canadiensis. But then when I went and looked at the at Tisserand and Young for the safety to really get my head round, okay, what constituents in there, I noticed that he'd put Canadiensis is a synonym for Menta arvensis. So I'm guessing you've got two bottles of oil that are actually the same. Do you?
I do, yes. I've got a corn
So,
mint and a
so
Japanese
right, so let's
peppermint with
So
each with
actually,
different
let's go
Latin names.
somewhere interesting then. So go somewhere interesting. Smell it. Do they smell the same?
Let's have a look. Where is my corn mint?
So just what? Yeah, go on. You got there quick.
To be honest, no, it doesn't. But I guess is it an oil that is grown at many different locations around the world with this kind of vast and range of names? I'm wondering whether this one I'm guessing might be a European one, whereas the Japanese peppermint it is I know sourced from Japan.
So I would imagine. I don't know, but I know that some particular essential oils are classified by their botany. It's the actual chemistry. Sorry, their chemistry that actually
Mm.
gives them the classification. I don't think that's the case with mints. I think they're classified by their leaf structure and their flowers and what those look like. I'll talk about an interesting thing about mints in a minute, but um, as you quite rightly say, wherever it grows, the terroir is going to influence it. You know what's the soil like? What's the challenges it's meeting with its with all the sun, with the rain, with the insects? How is it responding to that? That's how it makes an essential oil. And I think what we would see here, because I would say if you were looking at it from a chemical constituent point of view, is very high menthol. So
Mm.
I would say that is this whereas I shout at people, if I'm stressed, I shout at people. This particular species goes mental at you, and that's its way of reacting to the world. So, from a like a chemical point of view, but a therapeutic point of view, learning how to leverage menthol and kind of knowing what menthol does is really helpful to say, oh, actually, then a corn mint, Mentravensis, or Japanese mint, or whatever you decide to call it, I can leverage it better by knowing what menthol does. Um,
Mm.
and and menthol does lots of things. So, I think it's one of those constituents that most people have kind of a vague understanding of, because even as a child, you're told, well, suck this sweet, it's full of menthol. The menthol is going to help unblock your nose. And it's what's very pungent. It's the cooling aspect of the oil. And actually, menthol we have it is important in toothpaste. So actually, if you have a minty toothpaste, and that I absolutely hate it. This is one of the reasons why I hate mint. When you go outside in the winter and your mouth goes, ow, really cold. It's because the menthol actually works on the cold receptors in the body. And this is really helpful in working with pain conditions, because we can execute what's called an anti-nociceptive action. So we can switch down the pain signals within the body that sense cold. So if you've got problems with things like Raynaud's disease, sensitive teeth, you definitely don't want to have anything too much with menthol in, because that's going to aggravate that if cold does that. If you suffer with bad circulation in your feet or chilblains. As a child, I got a poisoned foot from having a blister from my ballet shoes, and then I had blue suede shoes. And the rain came and the dye went into my foot and poisoned my foot. And for years afterwards, I was fine until the chilblain came. And oh my goodness, the pain was excruciating for years and years. So menthol is great for that, because that's really interacts with that particular that pain signaling, and that's executed through what's called the TRPM8 act receptor. So anything to do with cold, to do with pain, we can switch it down using menthol. So if you were deciding, right, I'm somebody who has got a really frozen shoulder, note the word frozen shoulder, then that's great to have menthol, because that really gets into the pain signaling and calms that down. So would you pick peppermint? Would you pick corn meat, Japanese mint, whatever that birdie is? Well, I'd go that one, because more menthol. The more of that part of that oil is going to do the pain working. Forget everything else. I want that. Well, I don't know. I think it's about 60% menthol as opposed to about 30% menthol. That's got to be better, right? So yeah, that. So I think understanding that is a key signature of that oil, that it shouts at you in menthol, is useful to understand.
I often find when it comes to menthol, it's like that kid at school that we all hated because they're bloody good at everything. It's got so many different uses. So you've talked about a few, but I find it really helpful just popping a drop in your hand if you've got blocked sinuses or if you need a bit of a pick me up. Breathing that in can be really great. One study I know has found that menthol helps with gut motility. So actually, if you do find that you're getting a bit bloated or you've got sluggish digestion, that can actually help to get the intestines moving as well. So it's kind of great for the respiratory system. It's great for headaches. It's great for the gut. It's great for muscles. Women going through hot flushes, they can make a spritzer of it or really dilute it and massage a little bit in. Maybe not at night because you might be pinging, but throughout the day. Or it's really nice for kind of bringing that as well. But I find, yeah, you're exactly right that it does have more menthol in it than peppermint. I actually do find the aroma, especially my very first experience with this species of mint was actually I got a Japanese mint from a Japanese store, and it was called Hakka or Hack. It would have been Hakka, Hakka, and it just had this really crisp, clean. It's like fresh water, a fresh stream, a bubbling brook kind of aroma. And next to peppermint, it actually makes peppermint smell a little bit dirty to me.
Yeah, can you imagine that? That's true. Um, and of course, you talk about gut motility, and that's what we expect to see off all mints, really. You know that it's digestive. I don't know whether this it translates to other countries or not, but one of our main Sunday dinners, which you know, British people are famous for their Sunday dinners, although they don't really happen so much now as they did when I was little. But we would have roast lamb and mint because lamb is so fatty and it's quite hard to digest. So the mint is a traditional thing to go with it, but that helps with digestion. So all of these mints that we're going to cover to one degree or nothing will 1 degree. I don't know what I was trying to say there, but to a certain degree is what I'm trying to say. Will act upon the digestive system for better, for worse, and we'll start to understand that. But yeah, menthol will help not just the gut the motility, but actually right down from the gusset, from the gullet all the way down. So helping you to digest, breaking down fats.
Mm. Now, talking from a more of a spiritual perspective, what I actually find with this variety of mint, you know, in the past I would have talked about I call peppermint day mint. It's great for clarity and where you're heading in your life and that type of thing. Whereas I refer to spearmint as night mint. It's a bit more subtle in its awareness and the awareness that it brings. I actually refer to Japanese peppermint as epiphany mint. I find because of that crisp, clean nature, it's amazing for meditation. It is almost like it just kind of like the lights will go on and these little insights come in. So if you're feeling a bit stuck, a bit muddled mentally, this is going to be a really great oil to work with for that.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I hate mints is because they are bossy. And I'm bossy, so you don't need two bossy girls in the room. So it's why I don't like rosemary either. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the alpha. Forget it. But if you're somebody who is not very, who's like not very confident in their actions, or you feel just a bit jaded and you're a bit reticent to do stuff, the herbs are very good at pushing you. And the mints for sure go right, forget everything else, this is what you're going to listen to, and really make you focus on what you're doing. That's why they're good for concentration. So yeah, I would agree that was so. And it kind of is a bit like I'm doing a lot of work with cedarwood at the moment and looking into different ways that different cultures use cedarwood. And whilst that's relevant and not relevant, one of the key things that you see with these epiphany moments is that they're told to go to the highest peak to do it.
Mm.
And like the peppermint's very much an air medicine, and that idea of right, well, the air is cleaner and sharper and brighter and there's less distractions. I do think it probably takes you to that place.
Yeah, very much. I love that analogy of almost going to the top of the mountain, almost.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this is probably the one that we are the least informed about, but let's get this one done and dusted. Because I basically went shopping for mints and found that there was a lot and just bought some random ones that caught my eye. Because I love animals, I bought some horse mint, which is Mentha longifolia. Now,
Yeah, or field mint, it's also called.
yeah, what do
Um,
you know about this one, Liz?
Not very much at all. Actually, it grows everywhere round here. It's like a weed, and it's very pretty. And there is a suspicion, actually, that one of the key things that I use as an anchor for Melissa when finding them in Greek mythology is actually might not be Melissa they were talking about at all. It might be horse mint because they kind of do look similar. They've got very long leaves. And they're very pretty, but they're definitely like weedy. You know, it's not something that you would want to grow in your garden. It's definitely a weed. But the chemistry is really interesting. It's like a black pepper.
Hmm.
So you've got almost 51%, according to Tisserand and Young, by the way, almost 51% of piperitone oxide. And then you've got another 10%, which is piperinone oxide. You got a little bit of carvone, which is your spearminty stuff coming in. No carvone in peppermint, that comes in spearmint, and also caraway. So you're getting that kind of caraway smell. A little bit of beta caryophyllene, a little bit of limonene, a little bit of 1,8 cineole. So these are all things that you would expect to think about, right? Fever, infection. So not so much pain with this one. Not so, and it is brightening, but I don't think it has that same aspect as you would expect with the corn mints, for example. This one's going to be, yeah, it's going to be cooling, but almost in a way you'd expect warming, wouldn't you? If it's got black peppery. So can you pick out the smell of the black pepper?
I'm wafting it under my nose right now, and black pepper, no. When you mentioned caraway, yes. But the
Yeah,
first oil it reminds me of was actually myrtle.
right. So, well, that's 1,8. That's the 1,8 cineole probably
Nailed
that
it.
you're
Yeah.
smelling. And if you think
But
about the thing, so what's really interesting is the analysis I've got in front of me off Tisserand and Young here. 4% carvone, so that's your spearmint. So that's very, very low. 1,8 cineole, 4% as well. Very, very low. But that's clearly what you're picking out. So the other thing is, of course, maybe the chemistry of that one is different to the one that I'm looking at, different years, different rain, etc., all of that stuff. But looking at it from a point of view of the chemistry, I still would use it for circulatory problems. I still would use it for fever. So I probably would use it in the same way as I would use the corn mint, but just purely go, which energetic, how does this make me feel? So subtlety, that's as simple as.
and just to clarify, in the GCMS I pulled up as well, I didn't see menthol listed.
I can't see mental. Oh, but I can see really, but low percent actually. 1% myrcene. No, no, no.
No.
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Which is really interesting because a lot of people think mint menthol, but that's definitely not the case with the mint family, is it at all?
No,
No.
no. And I think actually the classification of a mint is based on thinking about it. The shape of its stalk is square, so
Hmm.
not round. So it's got like a squareness to it. And then, if I remember rightly, the leaves have to be in opposition to each other, so they go like that round it. Um, it's also got it's very much a bee medicine. If you ask, if I was to say if somebody said to me what was the initiatory um, plant of the Eleusinian mysteries, for me it wasn't Melissa. Melissa opened the door, but it was the mints. I learned most about myself studying mints, which I'll talk about when we get to Pennyroyal. But yeah, and bees absolutely love mint. They don't love Melissa. You can say what you like about it, but they don't. They come in the garden and the odd bumblebee, but as soon as the mints come out, there are hundreds of them. All the bees come back to it.
Mm. I'm finding really, especially with that menthol having such alertening, I don't even know if alertening's a word, but alertening effect on us. I would be more inclined to use peppermint or the first oil we're talking about, the Japanese mint or the corn mint, maybe during the day for any issues we're having. I am getting the feeling as you're talking about the chemistry and as I'm even smelling horse mint, this one would be okay for any of the issues that we've been talking about, but maybe as we are getting into the evening and the night, you'd still feel comfortable using this one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that is yes. There's nothing in there that would keep you awake that I can see straight off the top of my head. That I might be wrong, but one of the things that I come across a lot, I'll get questions off a lot of young people.
Mm.
A lot of sort of people in their sort of at uni are very much like we want to learn how to be able to concentrate. We've learned about that essential oils can help. Can you help us with this? We're really struggling with our exams. I get this a lot, and without fail, what you'll see is, well, how are you sleeping? Just I'm not. And well, that's why you can't concentrate. And you're not sleeping because you've got peppermint everywhere. So as you say, learning to when to use it is a really powerful thing. And I really wouldn't want anybody using peppermint after, like it's a bit like don't have a cup of coffee after 4 or whatever. It's a bit the same thing, you know. You're moving into nighttime oils, and I do think that this, if this was one that you really went, oh yeah, that makes me feel nice. This might be a good way to tap into that. But I can't see really anything in there that would also make me think, but it's going to help your memory, but it's going to help you concentrate. I would say that this one isn't one of those mints.
Got you. So moving on to that, mint oils that we might use at night. Let's talk a little bit about bergamot mint. Now, this is an oil that I have had in my collection for quite a while. When if you were to put bergamot mint in the middle and lavender on one side and peppermint on the other, bergamot mint is actually much more chemistry-wise very, very close to lavender. Nothing like peppermint. So it does have about 1% menthol in it. But when we look at, what lavender is famous for, it's linalool and it's linalool acetate. The lavender I work with has 33% linalool. Bergamot mint, 42% linalool. When we're looking at linalool acetate, 39% linalool acetate in bergamot mint, only 29% in lavender. So this one is really kind of it. Does it have a maybe if you mixed a mint with lavender, that's the aroma. But this one is a sleep mint. It's one that I diffuse at night on occasion just to help me get a better night's sleep. So I find it really relaxing, really calming, using it really in the place of lavender, especially if people aren't too keen on the lavender aroma.
I agree with all of that. What I would say though is we can pivot that a little bit because linalool is relaxing, but perhaps more importantly, it's antidepressant
Mm.
and it's anti-inflammatory. So very good for somebody who's, if you're trying to get somebody out of a funk, or a rut or whatever, I think that this would be a really interesting one to have. I have to say, I can remember buying this and I can put a date on it. It's been on that shelf now since 2016. I don't think I've taken the top of it again, so it's not one that speaks to me. But yeah, I think if somebody was very, let's use Toby for an example. I hope his mother doesn't mind. So next door to me, I have a very, very, very disabled little boy. Very disabled, cerebral palsy. He's in a wheelchair. He can't speak. He can't feed himself. All of those things. Toby is so aware all of the time. So actually, the funny thing was that our dog just spends her whole life going, I can smell a guinea pig next door. I can smell a guinea pig next door. And so if you're not careful, you let her out, you open the gate and she's next door and she's circling round the guinea pig. And if Toby's watching out the window, he's just laughing his head off watching it. He just thinks it's really funny. So whilst he's not of this normal way of thinking of of a person who's very, very aware, right? You would definitely not want to go near somebody like Toby shouting, right? You want to approach them very, very quietly. The voice is low. Hiya, Toby, how you been today? You're really down there. Mint to them would be like screaming in their face. And in the same way, if somebody who is depressed, they withdraw right in, their aura comes right in. You don't want loud mints, you want very quiet medicines that can do this. One of the oils that is very high in linalool and like scientifically good for depression is basil. But Basil shouts. Basil really shouts. She swears, in fact. You don't want that. This would be a really great one for somebody who's really gone right inside themselves, pulled their aura in, really. I can see you
Okay,
now.
you froze. Yeah, you froze for a second. The last sentence that we got was pulled your aura in.
Okay. So if you're dealing with somebody who's really withdrawn from life, they've really pulled their aura in, they're very small. I saw a lady the other day who she's been too ill to leave the house for quite a long time. She was walking up to the doctors. She didn't lift her eyes to talk to me. She was, really pulled right in. You really would not, regardless of what's going on with that person, however you're treating them, whatever oils you're administering, you do not want ones that shout. You want nice, quiet ones. And so you wouldn't want something like basil that really shouts. You wouldn't want something that like rosemary that was just, well, snarky. You want something really gentle. Well, this is a mint that's very, very quiet, like a lavender, as you say. This would be what I would go for somebody who's really withdrawn into themselves, and we want to try and draw them out.
Mm. If I had to give this mint a nickname, I'd either call it sleep mint or chill mint. I find it really beautiful. I find the effects of it like how we feel. I went to a yoga class this morning, and you walk out of a yoga class, you kind of feel, you're all stretched and you've had a bit of a workout, so you're a little bit tired, but there's that contentment. You're like, oh, that was a good workout. So it kind of has this real at ease feeling as well. Where I love using this, I find it to be actually quite a Taurian mint in this way that just helps us kind of become a bit more laid back, less stressed. I would use bergamot mint when it comes to anyone who has issues around money and is uptight around money, or when it comes to sex and anyone who's stressing about sex. I find bergamot mint is very much like, who cares what anyone else is doing? Let's just relax. Let's do it our way. Let's not try and compete. As long as we're enjoying it, as long as we're having fun, we don't need to worry about that. And so it's a real nice one for just letting us kind of go, it doesn't matter. Just chill. And when we think about money and we think about sex, those are things that are very high pressure things. They get a lot of attention, and we can all impose a lot of pressure on ourselves. And if one of those two things is causing issues in your life, I'd reach out for Bergamot Mint to just help you kind of get over those blocks, relax a little bit more, and just allow things to flow as they flow and as you choose for them to flow.
Yeah, I think at this point it's worth sort of going back over a couple of the oils that we've talked about, because we're talking about energetics as such, and I talked a bit about Toby then. I also think that we don't take mints by children, right? So from a chemical point of view, menthol would be contraindicated in children under 6, according to Tisserand and Young, because it slows respiration, and we can apply it if we want to in like very small dilutions on the back. But honest to goodness, who wants a mad overstimulated baby? Who wants it? You might as well give them red sweeties, right? So we don't want to do that. So but where's the contraindication come from? Does it come from the mental, or does it come from that it is just really stimulating? That's an energetic thing. But also we've talked about how the different mints we've covered, they've got 1,8 cineol, same problem, that we don't want to put it near the face of a child, but actually these are in tiny dilutions, so we're looking about 2% in most of them. So you could use it from a chemical point of view, that wouldn't be contraindicated, but I think for the most part, as I say, I don't want to give red Smarties to my kids. I'm taking the sugar away. No peppermint in my house, thank you. I want calm all the time. I want calm. I want an easy life. But I think with this particular one as well, there's nothing there that would say to me you couldn't use that on a child in a very small dilution.
Mm. Now, moving on to an oil that I know nothing about, but this is probably the one I'm most intrigued about. It doesn't really have mint in its name traditionally. It's pennyroyal, and I've been wafting it under my nose just in the last couple of minutes, and it smells like someone has accidentally put the peppermint lid on your Palo Santo.
So do you really know nothing about it?
No, I do not. Nothing at all. I've never had any experience with it, and I only cracked this bottle today.
Right, so very hazardous oil.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's one of the first things you taught when you start doing aromatherapy, that there is a list of oils that you do not touch, and it's on there. So of course, I think I probably have all of them that are on that list. But interestingly, the reason why we say that it's hazardous isn't the reason why it's proven to be hazardous. So that's quite interesting. So first of all, let me tell you that it is a water mint. So I grow it in my garden, in the pond, and again, bees, every insect loves it. You know, they just come from nowhere. And it's kind of usually partnered with rue as an abortifacient. So in folk medicine, they would say that people drank pennyroyal tea to have an abortion. But and that is why it's on the hazardous oils list. However, Tisserand and Young praised the data about it and said, actually, I can't find any proof that this is an abortifacient oil, except that what possibly happened was that the women that drank the pennyroyal tea lost their baby because they bled so much. And because actually, so it's affected their liver in a very adverse way. So the Latin name is Menta puglium, I think is right, but it was the constituent that we're worried about is pugilone, of which that makes up around about 70% of the oil. Pugilone is a particularly problematic constituent because it's hepatotoxic. So it really affects the liver in a really bad way. And what's interesting actually is when I was trained, as far as I know, I certainly never was given that data. I was told it was an abortifacient. That's why it was on the hazardous oils list. And my stepfather, as you know, was an aromatherapist, and he did used to use it, and he would say, I only use it on men. And you think, oh, well, actually, if it's only aborted, that makes sense that you can only use it on men. And you would use it on very small dilutions for things like frozen shoulder. But actually, with appraised knowledge, then it doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, it's still going to be hepatotoxic. But to be honest, I think the amounts needed are very high for that to happen. But regardless, it would not be one that I would ever use topically now. And, you know, you and I often talk about plant allies and that we work with plants rather than use essential oils. I work with plants. But plants also work with me. They teach me things. And this was a massive teacher for me when I was doing Melissa work, because within the myth of the Eleusinian mysteries, there is the story that the Kore, who becomes Persephone, is abducted, and Demeter, her mother, goes looking for her. She sits by the well. She encounters this family of women. Eventually, she will meet their housemaid, Iambe, or Baube if you're Roman, but Iambe, who is a hermaphrodite, incidentally, and she offers her a drink. So this is the key. We come in. So she offers her a drink, and she says, "Oh, you know, the only drink I want is the Kikion." And the Kikion is believed to be the magical drink of the mysteries that took them into a place. So there's loads and loads of research into, well, what could the Kikion have been? And there's some very plausible answers, that perhaps it was the ergot, that was the mold that was on the barley, which acts like LSD. So that takes you into a psychotropic place. I quite like that. There was also an argument that maybe it was psilocybin, doesn't need explaining, quite like that. But the one I really didn't like was somebody had proposed that gentle mint, which is the original translation, gentle mint was pennyroyal. And this was a a guy called Carl Karenyi, who is like the biggest authority on the Eleusinian mysteries, on Greek myth generally. He's written lots about the Minoans. You know, he was a very important academic. And I was like, are you kidding me? And, and it was like the biggest teaching moment because I had got such imposter syndrome of I'm going to take all of these academics to task and say, oh, this is about bees. I mean, they're just going to think I'm ridiculous. But the mints taught me, but you do know stuff. And you cannot allow him to go there and say that he's going to give 3,000 people pennyroyal tea when anybody can go. Not only is it going to be a bit abortive efficient, but they're all going to have liver problems afterwards. You know, that's just not on. And so to be able to see that as to, well, you don't know all of the academic stuff that they do, but the stuff you do know, that was a really powerful thing. And actually that was a probably the key thing that allowed me to get over the finishing line, really. But also there was another mint one, which I feel like I might have said in peppermint, but I just think it's one of my favourite things, so I'm going to say it again. That I genuinely believe that the mysteries was a technology, and you learned to use the information before you, and you learned huge amounts about the natural world. But then once the initiation was over, then you would go all around Greece and see it played out. You know, that you were never allowed to tell the secrets, but the secret was that it was a joke that everyone was telling you, right? And I was doing some work yesterday with Delphi, and I saw it again in Delphi that I'd never seen, but that's a different thing. But here, if you think about the story that the Kore is snatched, she goes down, she becomes the queen of the underworld, Persephone. Then there's another story about the nymph Minte, and that she was potentially the love mistress of Hades, and Persephone's jealous and she says no, and she turns her into a mint. Well, I just thought it was really funny that Hades was the Egyptian, or Osiris is the Egyptian Hades. Aedes aegypti is a mosquito, and mosquitoes won't go anywhere near mints. And I was like, is that there, or have I just made that up? But the more times that you do it, there's just loads and loads of jokes like this. And so suddenly you'll never forget that mosquitoes don't like mint. You know, it's just you're going to keep it in your head forever. So yeah, I think that mints, if you learn about mints, you learn an awful lot about nature, full stop. So my husband is going through that initiatory practice at the moment, which is really amusing me because he really believes that his gardening skill is more than my plant knowledge. And you can see that the way that he's planting the garden, which is beautiful. But I have previously collected lots of mints. And one thing I can tell you is it doesn't matter what species they are, if you plant them close together, they all change into the same species, which is interesting from this medicine because you're just like, oh, I can't discern them. And we have planted a beautiful bed of rosemaries and catnip this side, and sages and mints that side. And there's about 5 different mints, and it looks very pretty. But already I can see the leaves are changing on one of them. They're turning into the spearmint, which they do because that's our predominant mint. So they are definitely shapeshifters. Mints are.
I think the original 2 mints, water mint and spearmint, I think it is the cross of them that creates peppermint, is it not?
Don't know the answer to that, but that wouldn't surprise me. And also never underestimate like the power of watching what a plant's like. I will. So actually, I was saying about how I was working with cedarwood, and it's really made me think about as like a socio positioning of a plant, if you like. So a cedarwood's so enormous that you can't have that on your balcony. You know, you have to live in like, you have to be landed gentry to have an intimate relationship with a cedarwood tree because it needs that much space. But mint, you can have a really intimate relationship with just with a pot on your window. So that's quite an interesting position to me. So there are certain plants that you can live with and you can watch and you can learn from. And I do think that this is an aspect of the mysteries too. And the first is that it doesn't matter how much space you give a mint bush. It is such a thug. It's going to go through everybody else, and that's exactly what I why I don't like it around me. That energy is just like you don't matter. So they will change all the other mints, but also their leaves grow up and vertical, drop down. They put roots down. Oh my goodness, it's spread and spread and spread and spread. So this I think this pervasive energy for somebody who's got weakened energy, if you can get them to a place where they can manage this huge gush of air that comes through it, that really pushes strength through, it's the strongest of all the plants, I think, mint is.
Now, I've got a couple of questions that I want to take you back a little bit. I've got myself 5 mils of pennyroyal. What am I going to do with it?
Nothing. Shouldn't have bothered.
Do you use it at all?
No, no, not at all. The only time that I can honestly say that I spent time with it was that time really getting to grips with, have I really got this wrong? I'm going to call out a really predominant, important mythologist and historian. Am I really going to, Pennyroyal, you need to sit and teach me? That's the only time that I've ever sat with it, ever. So no, that is one you should not have spent your money on, I think.
I don't mind the aroma of it. Would it be okay just to diffuse around the home?
I would say yeah, but don't use too much of it.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
Mm.
Now, just out of curiosity, I know whenever a question or a little curiosity awakens my mind, it's probably other people are listening or watching it's kind of awoken theirs as well. Don't expect the whole list, but you said there was a list when you first started studying aromatherapy of oils we don't touch, and pennyroyal was one of them. What were some of the others, just off the top of your head?
Oh, so it does change. So the one that so things like thuja, rue, winter savoury. When I qualified, wintergreen was on it, but wintergreen was taken off it. But it's very, very easy to access. So if, as the UK director of NAHA, I would send you to the NAHA website, and if you just type in hazardous oils, it will come up. There's around about 30 oils on it, but I guarantee you, none of them are the ones that you are going to encounter day to day. They're just not. What was interesting actually, because I was expecting you to ask that about pennyroyal, so I got out Plant Teachers and the Poison Path by Dale Pendle, and the only sort of context he uses is about the kiki, and he doesn't offer even any then, and he's a poison plant teacher, so he hasn't got anything really to say about it.
Okay, so let's kind of wrap up our mint discussion a little bit. When it comes to the mints, do you find that they all work particularly with one chakra, or would you dance around with different ones?
Oh, do you know, I hadn't even thought about it, but I think they're all probably brow chakra because it's just opening the brain so much, just
Yeah.
like you concentrating that. If you think about it, so actually, so I really saw something interesting the other day that I didn't know, and probably most of our listeners will go, well, I knew that, and that was obvious. But so the third eye comes from the Lord Shiva from in Hinduism, and he's seen as meditating and turning his attention inwards and focusing it forward towards his third eye. That's what he's doing. And then the power comes from his third eye. And so what you were talking about of like the epiphany, but also I really can see how that they would think that pennyroyal could be the oil that brought gnosis, but on a physical, no, it's impossible but that idea of being able to focus the attention and project uh, towards knowledge has got to be brow chakra.
Yep, I would totally agree with you. The only mint that we've discussed today that I wouldn't put on the third eye chakra is bergamot mint. I find it is so kind of calming and almost loving and nurturing. I find that works really well with the heart chakra. But all the rest, yeah, I go with the brow as well. What about
And
astrologically?
actually,
Oh, go on.
uh, uh, well, so I was going to say actually, horse mint, I'm pretty sure has got deep pink flowers. So that would be
Hmm.
interesting to think about it from that point of view. Astrologically, where would you put it? Well, I think I'd go Hermes. I think I'd go Mercury.
Yeah. Now, I guess for that mine, because of that link to Pluto and Hades that you're talking about before, I do find when we work with the mints, it's interesting. You're talking about how they actually transform each other. They have a transformative effect on each other. They do bring that clarity. They've got that coldness of Pluto being out in the far reaches of our solar system. So I actually like to tie a lot of the mints in with Pluto.
Yeah, so actually, traditionally, if you were talking about mint traditionally, when we were focusing on peppermint, you would say it comes under Mars, because of that fiery sort of shouting war bossy. That's Mars, but yeah, I don't think they would put those under there. I think the way that they're tricksters, that's mercurial, and and it's kind of part of the reason why I just don't trust them. They don't do what they appear they should do. That and so yeah, mercurial, I think.
So you're down at the mint essential oil shop. Which mint oils do you think that people need to have in their collection? Is peppermint, spearmint, and maybe bergamot mint enough? Or do you think there's another one or two that should be in there as well?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person because I would say chuck them all in the
Done.
bin, chuck them all in the bin. But then when we go to a garden centre, Daryl goes, "Oh God, there's another mint. You're going to buy another mint?" Yes, yes. I think personally, I don't even think you need bergamot mint. I think that you could use lavender in the same way. So I think but I do think peppermint and spearmint are different enough. And in the context of this, you should go back and watch, particularly the spearmint video, because you probably won't retain all the information that we knew about that. I don't think you need the others. Don't.
Hmm. I am going to put a call out. When you go down to the garden centre, one mint that's a very popular mint there is chocolate mint. But I've not been able to find anywhere in the world anyone who has actually distilled that and made an essential oil out of it. And I'm curious to know if it's possible, what it would smell like, and if someone can find it for me, let me know because I want to get my hands on it.
It's easy to find. You're looking under the wrong name. It's called Mitcham Mint.
Excellent. I'm going shopping as soon as we finish this. I have one final question that I wanted to run by you. I know you don't like the mints, but from my perspective, all of the mints that we have covered today, as well as peppermint and spearmint, are actually not my favorite mint aromas. There are two other essential oils, both native to Australia, which I love, which have really beautiful mint aromas. The first one is peppermint gum. It's a species of eucalyptus which has a really soft yet, oh, how do you separate mint? A lot softer without that punch in the face. Because a lot of people don't realize that about eucalyptuses. They kind of go, eucalyptus is eucalyptus. But there are 700 different species of eucalyptus tree here in Australia. All of them produce an essential oil. Not all of them are produced commercially because a lot of them are just doubles up. But you do get this diversity. You get lemon scented gum and lemon ironbark that have lemon aromas. You get strawberry gum, which has a strawberry aroma. But peppermint gum, really, really nice. There's another plant you may not have heard of before, but it's called Australian Balm Mint Bush. And that would probably be my number one mint aroma in all of the essential oil world.
So actually, I should say that when we were talking about bergamot mint, people often think that's what I'm talking about when I say when I'm talking about Monarda, because they're in the same family. They are mints, and of course, it smells of bergamot. So yeah, that's a cross section. I agree about peppermint gum. Deb bought me some when she came over, and I do really like that one. I don't know about the other one that you said, but actually, one of the most effective things I have ever tried, Deb sent me when I was having very bad hot flushes in the middle of a very, very big heat wave here. She sent me bushmint hydrosol. And I have
Mm.
never felt anything so cooling in all my life. It was like it's having this heavenly rain on top of me that just went switched off my hot flushes. So I would heartily recommend that anybody who is going through hot flushes, or when it gets hot, in the summer, this country isn't equipped for the heat that we're having now. And I don't think the peppermints cut it, but bushmint, oh my goodness, it's heavenly. It's so cooling.
Yeah, I think probably these two, you've been talking a lot about the mints are very loud and they yell. I don't find either the Australian balm, bush mint, or the peppermint gum yells so much. There's that strength and that power. But even the bush mint, it's almost fairy-like in its refreshingness kind of thing.
It even, and she'd said to me, that's the smell of the bush. And I was like, what do you mean? And she went, that when you go to the outback, that's what it smells like. And for somebody who has never been to the outback, that was like transformative for me. I was like really taken on a journey of like, oh, that's what that smells like. How amazing. I would never even thought of that. I would have thought it smelled like red sand, And it was just this beautiful, fresh, as you say, fairy like is a really good description of what it's like. It's like almost like tinkly bells. It's so light. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. Well, today has been great talking to you, or I could just say it's actually been really mint.
Well, there you go. I've loved it too.
Awesome. Well, join us next week. We'll dive into another essential oil. Until then, take care and blessed be.
Bye bye.